When applying to dental school, to get into dental school, it's a process. It's a process and it takes time. And sometimes your timetable is not the timetable that the programs or the school's timetable, meaning you may have to apply a couple of times, right? One, two, or maybe even three times. So, Doc, tell us, being that the case for you, what was the hardest part of this process for you?
Okay. The hardest part for me, it was having the mental stamina of constantly remaining focused and disciplined and ultimately fighting to get a spot into dental school. That has been the hardest part of this journey because, as I mentioned, I am a non traditional student. I came out of college officially in 2017, and then I need a WUSA because I obtained 2 degrees. So I worked in corporate America, but yet I still didn't take my eye off the goal of ultimately wanting to get into dental school. So trying to juggle a full-time job and going into a master's program. And during this particular time, I was also dealing with COVID in 2020. I was juggling a number of things while still trying to remain focused on getting accepted into dental school. And that's the only thing that kept me going each and every single day, was looking at my peers who gotten accepted into their heart's desire, whatever dental school that was, and seeing how happy they were, ironically, during and on the other side of graduating dental school. So that's what kept me going, but that was also the hardest part of my journey.
Yeah, yeah. Becoming a dentist, being an oral health professional is a dream for many, many people. It's a dream that cannot be and must not be deferred, meaning you must apply and continue to apply and strengthen your candidacy until you get accepted. Today, we're going to be talking about how a non-traditional student got into dental school after not his first try, not his second try, but his third time. The third time, the Trinity, the third time is the charm, right? And we're going to be talking about how he got his application together, the things that he did the first, second, and third cycles, how he came up with his list of programs, how he prepared for the dental admissions test, the DAT, list of schools he applied to, interviews, all of those things en route to becoming and getting accepted into dental school. So stay tuned. Hey, this is Dr. Darwin, a new dentist coach, with another episode of Ask Dr. Darwin on the New Dentist Podcast Show, where we talk about getting into dental school, surviving dental school, getting into residency, surviving residency, and life as a new dentist. Guys, be sure that you are continuing to support the channel. Share the information with colleagues, friends, people that you know that are applying to dental school or residency programs. All right. This content is created for you for free. So continue to support by sharing, liking, commenting as well. Also, stay all the way through. We have a guest today who's going to be sharing some great tips all the way through from the beginning, the middle, and the end. So we want to make sure you guys get all those tips. Also, this episode of Ask Dr. Darwin is being brought to you by Dr. Darwin on Demand, the ultimate resource to help you, support you, and mentors with some mentorship in a community as you are progressing in developing your candidacy to become a dentist or even to become a specialist in residency. So for more details, check out this link down below, and we'll hope to see you in the group real soon. All right. So today, special guest, a guest who has gone through a lot. It's very similar to my journey into dental school as a non-traditional student, a non-science major, so to speak. Today, we're joined with student Dr. Wesley Clarke, who's going to be sharing his journey. Doc, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I can't complain. Every day above ground is a blessing in itself.
That's right. Above ground and moving forward, right?
Yes.
And moving forward, especially in your case. So for many who are meeting you for the first time, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, and your background leading up to um, getting accepted into dental school.
Sure. So, okay. My name is Wesley Clarke. I'm born and raised in Atlanta. There are still a few of us here because I know we have a lot of transplants, but born and raised here. I live in Decatur. Fun fact about me, 8 red lights from Emory University. I started undergrad at the University of West Georgia, but I transferred into UGA, where I ultimately got 2 degrees, one in broadcast journalism and the other in biology. After successfully completing both programs in 2017, it was a lot of work, so I needed to woosah. I decided to work in a couple of labs, and then I started a master's program in 2020 because unfortunately, my GPA, science GPA, and overall GPA were not competitive enough to get accepted into dental school. So I did my master's at Georgia State in 2022. Officially, that's when I completed. And then I am now going off to dental school in 2025. But in that process, I did apply to dental school 3 times, one in 2017, the second time in 2022, and then the last and final time in 2024.
Wow. I mean, there's just so much to unpack with that level of perseverance. So congratulations. And we'll talk more about this process, right, for you and what that's meant for you, things that you've had to continue to persevere. But no, we're not. But in relationship to that, there had to have been a reason why you were persistent in your pursuit of dentistry. There's something about dentistry, about this profession that you wanted. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about why dentistry versus other health professions, other careers as well. Why did you pick dentistry? Hey everyone, it's Dr. Darwin. Just want to take a quick break from this episode and hope that you are enjoying it. First thing I want to ask is, did you know that a large majority of the individuals like you who watch these episodes are not subscribed to the channel, to the YouTube channel? Nevertheless, we want to say thank you for watching and continuing to share these videos and episodes with others. Next, I want to say is subscribe. Yes, please hit the subscribe button so that you get these notifications each time these episodes are released. Last is I wanted to connect with those of you who are seeking to become an advanced dentist and specialist. And I invite you to our next event called the Get Into Dental Residency Challenge. This is a special 4-day event that will give you direct access to the mistakes that you want to avoid when you're applying to residency programs, and also the 8 steps that you also want to avoid so that you do not have an unsuccessful application submission. The information that we will be covering over those 4 days will be some of the tips and strategies that I teach in my one-on-one and group coaching trainings with clients who are continually and successfully being matched into and selected into high-profile residency programs here in North America. So if you're pursuing or aspiring to get into dental residency this application cycle, this challenge is for you. Check out the link below to receive more details and join the challenge. And also, I would encourage you to enroll in the challenge via the VIP experience. The VIP experience gives you actually access to a 1-hour Q&A session every day of the challenge before we actually get started with the challenge. And it guarantees me to answer your specific questions that you and other VIP experience members have on a daily basis. So I'll see you in the Get Into Dental Residency Challenge, and let's get back to this episode.
Yeah, so my interest in dentistry started, let's go way back, when I was a senior in high school in fall of 2008. My mother lost her job due to no fault of her own, and it was because of the job recession. And my mother was a single parent. She raised my sister and I growing up. And so she always found a way to support my sister and I. I was a senior in high school, and I believe my sister was a senior in college at the time. And I'll never forget when she came to me and was saying, hey, I lost my job due to no fault of my own. Which, another thing, by the way, I was never interested in dentistry. That's number one. But number two, I was always interested in video games. So being a teenager, you're carefree, you don't have major responsibilities. I'm thinking my mom is like Wonder Woman. She gonna find a way. She gonna make a way. She gonna make lemonade out of orange juice. But this time it was one of those things where no, I don't know what else to do. She lost her insurance, medical, dental, vision. And for 2 years, we were unable to see a dentist. And during this particular time, my mother was pre-diabetic. And so she was having different complications and ailments going on. And so before social media became very prevalent in our society, I turned to Google. I'm like, okay, how does diabetes affect the body? What are some of the how can someone, I guess, beat diabetes? Like, how does the body work essentially? And one of the things that I saw on Google was, oh yeah, if someone has poor oral hygiene, it can aggravate diabetes even worse. And I'm like, what? Is this serious? And so, of course, hopping on Google, it was my best friend back in '08. I started typing oral health. How does oral health interrelates with the body? I'm reading all types of things. I'm just like, oh my gosh. So my interest from video games shifted to the anatomies because I'm like, okay, I need to really immerse myself in this particular industry because I have a lot of questions about how the body works. How does life work in general? And I said, I'm going off to college and majoring in biology because my sister and I, we're first generation college students. So I said, I'm a major in biology as well and figure out how exactly does the human body work, whether it's immunology I got to take, physiology, whatever I got to take. I need to get a better understanding of dentistry.
Yeah, and that's a somewhat similar story for some people in the sense that there's something about oral health, or there's a story or a family member or individual experience where they're impacted and then they're fascinated and they dive in, right? When they dive in. So, wow. So once you've decided that as a bio major, once you've decided, because even with biology, as a bio major, there's many different pathways, pharmacology, med school, right? Even engineering, right? There's some professions where you use some of that basic and some sciences related to engineering as well. So you made your decision, bio major, dental school, and then you start your application process. And you start it and you continue it and you continue it over a period of time. So did you start while you were an undergrad, or was it after a second major? Or was it during your master's program that you decided to go to dental school and start the application process? Let's talk a little bit more about when you started and the things that you did to put your application together, especially
Okay.
as a non-traditional student.
Okay. So I transferred into UGA fall of 2011 and I tacked on journalism. So I knew that was going to be a delay in itself. So I really didn't start the application process until after UGA, which was in 2017, because I graduated in 2016. But to answer the part of, well, what did you do in undergrad, Wes? Like, how was you able to juggle all of this? So I did, when I was at West Georgia, I was part of Phi Sigma Pi, which is an honors fraternity. You had to have a 3.0 or higher. I was interested in the news at the time. So I was a news anchor and did UTV 13 News. I played soccer. I played dodgeball. And then transferring into UGA, I was a member of Phi Sigma Pi there my first year. Then still played dodgeball, kickball, and I began to shadow dentists throughout the city of Atlanta. I did what we call here in Georgia Mission of Mercy, which is a biannual event where you provide dental care to those without dental insurance, and those are essentially who are in need of oral care. And I was volunteering at those events. I attended the Hinman Dental meeting throughout those years. So when I officially graduated, then that's when I started working. And my first job was at a microbiology tech, but I was only there for 3 months because the company downsized and moved to another part of the state. And then at the time, I was working at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta in the microbiology lab. And those experiences and skill sets, or what all I was involved in, I was putting that into my application for when I applied to dental school.
Awesome, awesome. And what were some of the aspects as you were going through this process? What were some of the aspects that you felt uh were challenging in putting that application together? Because you worked a little bit, you did some shadowing, you mentioned going to the meetings and things, going to the Hinman meeting. And for those of you who are listening and watching, if you haven't been to the Hinman meeting and you're in the Southeast region area, gotta go to the meeting. And that's a whole nother discussion. But tell us a little bit more about, like, how did you come to getting other parts of your application, especially the letters of recommendation as well?
Ooh, you're touching on a lot. So let's dissect this. So, number one, the hardest part was that I did not have a pre-dental advisor. During my undergrad, my pre-dental advisor did not really support me because my grades, I will admit, were not aesthetically pleasing to the eye. She kind of put a lot of distance between me, and there was no support there. And the relationship got so bad that she just stopped talking to me. So here I am, I'm on my own. I'm like, okay, God, what do I do? How do I put my application together? So what I then turned to were pseudo advisors. I said, okay, let me Google what schools I'm interested in. And so then I said, let me set up a day and time to speak with the dean. If it's not the number 1, 2, or 3 person in charge, somebody who sits on the committee to really help me with trying to assemble my application together so that I can be at least noticed or acknowledged during the application process. And so then once I met with those men and or women, I had a better idea of how to put my application together. Now, with the letter of recommendations, I'm glad you brought this up because this was extremely important. When I just graduated UGA and was applying, I had, luckily for me, I remained in contact with all my professors. So while I was in undergrad, I was always going to office hours, whether I had an A in the class, a C in the class, a B in the class, I was always going to office hours, and I always maintained that relationship with the professor throughout the duration of the class as well as afterwards. So when I was working in corporate America, and when I sent an email to, it was my OChem professor who I had for OChem 2, evolutionary biology, I was able to email them and they knew my first and last name. They say, oh, it's Wes. Hey, what exactly do you need? I said, hey, I need a letter of recommendation. And what I did in 2016, before I left UGA, I gave them a whole year's notice saying that I'm going to be applying in 2017 because one of my professors, I used another professor for another scholarship or grant. I forgot what I applied for. They made a valid point. They said, it's not enough to give me a 2 weeks notice. You need to give me an advance notice. And I said, well, what's an advance notice in your opinion? They said a month to 2 months because you're not the only one coming to us for a letter of recommendation. And my OChem professor at the time, he said, I have a number 1 through 40. This represents the first 40 students that come to me asking for a letter of recommendation. I got kids who want a job, trying to get into professional school, master's, internship, study abroad, externship. I have to get my mind right to know what kind of letter I am writing. So that's a quick sliver of that. So getting the letters of recommendation were easy. And then plus, since I was in corporate America, I could go to my bosses at the time who could write one for me about my professionalism in the workforce. So LORs, as I call them, were easy to get.
Yeah, they were easy for you because you had a strategy. You had a strategy from the beginning.
Right.
And it sounded like you had some great individuals, professors that gave you some very important tips. So the one takeaway that I heard that I want to amplify for everyone who's listening and watching is that you've got to find individuals who can speak positively about you based on a relationship that you have been building with them and them with you. Right? To your point, like your professor said, hey, 2 weeks is not enough time for me to write a letter for you or for you to give me notice. Not only is this just not enough time, but also, like you said, there's probably 30 other people that are applying to other things that I'm writing on their behalf as well. So a year in advance is great. But I think the key for me was the fact that you said that you went to office hours, always staying and building that relationship with the individual, not only because you wanted to do well in the class, but also because you knew that at some point you needed someone to be able to write on your behalf about your character, who you are as an individual, and who you are as a person, and who you are as a student as well. That's so key. The importance of office hours and building and maintaining those connections, those lines of communication. So thanks for sharing that. The other part of the application is is a test. Is is the test. And look, we can laugh about it now because yeah, we've done it and you gotten through it and you're in school, but it probably wasn't necessarily something to laugh about when you first started out. Let's talk about how you prepared for the infamous DAT, dental admissions test. Let's go there.
Okay. So I'll never forget. So in 2017, that's when I took my first DAT test. It was hard because I was working the graveyard shift. I'll never forget that. 10:53 p.m. to 7:23 a.m. So I was working the your face that you making. I will never forget those 9 months of my life. So I had to I had to flip my strategy and approach. So what was that? 10:53 to 7:23 a.m. That's when I was working. Came home around 8:30, slept until 6 p.m. Then I had to catch the bus to get back to the hospital, and I would eat dinner. And then by like 8 p.m., I would try to study for the DAT. There was like a conference room that was left open, and I would just study in there. During this particular time, there really wasn't no strategy because it was so hard to juggle the night shift, and then plus I was in the micro lab. I had to remain cognizant to do my job, so there was no strategy there. Okay, fast forward to 2022, my strategy was a little bit better. um I made an agreement with my mom. I said, Mom, can I please not pay rent for 3 months? Just give me 90 days so that I can focus on the DAT. She agreed. I said, great. So what I decided to do was I had a little bit more of a strategy. I pulled out a sheet of paper and said, okay, when am I trying to sleep? I said, okay, from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., I'm asleep. 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., I'm going to eat breakfast. And then a solid 8 to 5, that's when I'm going to study. I said, we're going to take it old school like how I did it in elementary school. So from 8 to 10, we're going to learn one subject. 10 to 12, another subject. 12 to 1, I'm going to have lunch. 1 to 3, another subject. And then 3 to 5, another subject. And then with the PAT, I decided to look at that for 1 hour each and every single day. I did use DAT boot camp. My strategy was fairly effective. For OChem and Gen Chem, I did workbook problems. I made flashcards. For biology, at first, I know we're going to get to this. It was like drinking from a fire hose. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much biology. It's not clicking. So for me, I'm a very visual person. So I drew out diagrams and I started connecting the dots. So I said, okay, if I'm taking more so with biology, I said, if I'm taking a practice quiz, they're asking me, hey, if I don't know, a river forms between a population of horses and the general population of the horses, majority is black, a few of them is white, what kind of evolution is taking place over the period of time. It wasn't enough to know the correct answer. I was really studying the answer choices to know why are the other 3 or 4 answer choices wrong and what is the reasoning behind why they are wrong. So I took it a second time.
Aha. I like that strategy. Go ahead, keep talking.
So my scores jumped. So if I'm being candid here, we just gonna be all the way candid. The first time, where is that? Oh yeah, I got my DAT scores right here. The first time I took the DAT, 925, 2017. Academic average was a 16, total science was a 15, OChem 16, Gen Chem 12, Bio 16, RC 18, QR 18, and PAT 17. There was no strategy there. But the second time, my scores jumped. Academic average was an 18, total science 17, OChem 18, Gen Chem 17, Bio 17, reading 21, QR dropped 15, and my PAT was a 19. So I'm like, okay, my method was somewhat effective.
And that
And
was in
so,
22. 22 was the
yeah,
second time you took it.
right. In September of 2022. And I had a lot going on that year because I was trying to get out of Georgia State, finish my master's program. And so then I called, once again, if we're talking about building up a rapport, the school I ultimately decided to go to, I was building a rapport with her and said, hey, we spoke the first time in 2017. Here I am now in 2022. She said, hey, Mr. Clarke, we could see where you got stronger, but you on that cuff or where we looking for competitive scores, Mr. Clarke, you got to take it again. And so then that third time I said, all right, I I became like Uma Thurman from Kill Bill. I'm like, nah, we got to have a strategy here. So, and I still got this on my wall right here after all these years and months. My strategy for studying for the DAT, I said, okay, I started over again. I said, I'm pretty much going to go to sleep from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. and then be in the gym from 5 a.m. to 6:30, and then from 7 a.m. to 8, eat breakfast. And then this time, 8 to 6 p.m. I said the first 2 hours of the day, we're going to do biology, then Gen Chem, noon is lunch, then quantitative analysis, then the last 2 hours could be reading or PAT. But this time, I'm going to continue to build on where I left off in 2022. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? And I established or reset my DAT bootcamp account. So some of the information and practice tests I didn't complete the first time around, I did that the second time around. And once again, I was getting not only to connect the dots in biology, but as well as OChem and Gen Chem as well. And yeah, my grades were a little bit better. If I'm being transparent, academic average 19, total science was a 20, OChem was a 22, the Gen Chem was still a 17. My bio was a 22, reading 19, my QR 16, and then PAT was at 18. So my sciences really jumped.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They really
Yeah.
jumped. So
Congratulations. That's key. And because I will tell you, there are people watching right now, people listening right now that have a similar dilemma with regards to scores, right? And how they have a strategy and they're implementing those strategies, and some are more successful than others in receiving their target score. And I mean, basically, you went, you know, from 16 to 19 to an 18 to a 22, based on the range of your scores over a 3-year period, which is significant enough that a school or schools said yes.
yes.
Yes, you know, so congratulations on persevering through that process, because that this DAT can be the one that just gets people just just really um, stuck, right? Stuck like truck in the pickup truck with no wheels on and no gas. You just stuck,
Right.
just stuck. So, thanks for sharing not only the scores but also the strategy and the things that you implemented to make sure that you stayed consistent and you were persistent, right? A lot of hard work, but also a lot of discipline. What I heard was discipline. A lot
Right.
of discipline in that process as well. So you took the DAT. Next is the process of coming up with a list of schools. Now you mentioned you're from Atlanta, and we know there's one dental school in Georgia. Another, well, there used to be two,
Yeah,
uh,
Emory.
Emory, and there's actually one coming
Yep.
on your way from Atlanta, Macon to Hilton Head. There's one coming. I heard from uh well, it's coming, but I'm sure you didn't just limit your list of schools or schools that you were exploring to only in Georgia. So let's talk about your process of the schools that you were looking at, the number of schools that you applied to, and why they were even on your list to begin with.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So this time around, third time, I'm like, all right, God, let me sit down and think outside the box and come up with a strategy for what schools I want to apply to. Because I said this time I'm throwing the kitchen sink at everybody, meaning the DAT scores, GPA, my master's, getting involved, everything. But what schools do I feel comfortable attending? So I literally looked at every school in America, A through Z and Z back through A, and I went through it like a fine comb. So what I decided to do, I'm a very visual individual. So I bought me a whiteboard, printed it out, a map of the USA, blew it up, put it on the poster board, and I started making notes. And so I said, okay, this is where I'm at in life, God. I don't have much money and I need to make this time around count. So I began to color in certain states where in yellow, I'm like, okay, they're like a wild card. I could see myself living there. The weather is potentially nice. I identify as an African American male. I'm like, would I feel safe walking off campus, trying to treat myself to a pizza when I pass a certain wax practical or whatnot? Do I feel myself being safe there? The education, the cost, and more importantly, am I even competitive enough to be granted not only an interview but admission into their school? So I colored certain states yellow, certain states orange, and one state red. And so I said, okay, I had a list of 20 schools. I narrowed it down to 15, 10, and then a solid 7. And those 7 schools were Florida, DCG, Meharry, Toro, Tufts, Cretin, and Arizona, or people call it Etsu, but Arizona. Those were the 7 I decided to go with. And I said, all right, God, I've uncovered all my regions here in America. And however the chips may fall, I'll let you lead the way and I follow.
So 7 schools you ended up narrowing it down to, out of 20, down to 15, down to 10, and then down to 7 as well. So Florida, Georgia, Meharry, Toro, Tufts, Creighton, and ATSU. Man, that's you right. You all over the US, from Florida to Boston to the Midwest to West Coast.
Yep.
Got you. Got you. And outside of cost, location, there was something else that you mentioned, and maybe you can just repeat it. What else about these 7 schools that checked off on your criteria?
It was weather, the education, And being a man of color, specifically African American, would I feel safe venturing off campus to enjoy the community where these schools sits in, or do I have to be a little concerned about what's going on in the surrounding community in the school?
Now, did you happen to know anyone currently at any of these seven schools that you narrowed it down to, or any of the 10 prior to that, or 15 or 20 prior to that?
Well, formally, no, but this is what I decided to do. So if I'm talking on the timeline, let's go back to 2020. So in 2020, when I was at Georgia State, the pandemic, I'm working, those few moments where I was taking study breaks, whether it was from studying or not having to study with a job and how to handle certain samples, I went to social media, specifically YouTube, and typed in future DDS. And the two gentlemen who were spearheading that page, they said, yeah, we interview students from around the nation. And so the schools that I were interested in, I saw the students who they were talking to at the time, they're doctors now. I saw their interview and I said, I wonder if I can find them on social media. I sent them a very professional email. I said, hey, my name is Wes Clarke. I'm very interested in attending the school that you currently attend. I understand you're extremely busy at the moment, but when you get the chance, I would love to set up a day and time to speak with you about what's it like attending XYZ institution. And please respond when you have the free time. Something along that nature. And more often than not, they will respond. Now I got a link at these schools and I'm asking them all the right questions because I knew going into these schools, one question they would probably ask me is, what is your connection to the school? Do you know anyone here? Oh, well, so-and-so who I spoke with, I knew I would be able to have that as my way in as some type of connection to the school.
Smart, very smart, very resourceful. Shout out to future DDS, Terrell, and oh God, I forgot the other brother's name. Um, Brother from Atlanta
Yep.
and a brother from Baltimore who went to Tufts and are practicing now. So shout out to that. The importance of resources, social media, right? Yes, entertainment, yes, pleasure, but also as a resource to get you from A to Z and Z to A, like you said, and forth and back, right? And the power of being able to tap into those resources and have that help you navigate this process. So, seven schools. We got Florida, Georgia, Meharry, Toro in New York, Tufts in Boston, Creighton in Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
Nebraska? Yeah, Creighton in
Yep.
Nebraska. And ATSU, UT Still in Arizona. So, seven schools. So let's talk about, now that you submitted your application, seven schools, you got them narrowed down. Now you got to wait, right? Not as long as you had to the first time or second time that you applied, but you're still waiting. You're waiting for that email. You're waiting for that notification that you've been invited for an interview. So let's talk about the interview, and more specifically, the number of interviews that you received invitations to, what the interview day was like, if there were any differences amongst the programs where you had interviews, the type of interviews that they were, and any maybe strange questions that they asked, whether it was similar at programs or there were one or two programs or schools that asked something that you were like, oh wow, okay, I didn't think they're going to ask me that. So let's talk about your interview process and
Yes.
how many interviews you got.
Yes. So out of the seven, I got interviews at four schools. Arizona, ironically, they was the first one to respond. That was like July or June of 2024. I was like, say what? So they was the first one to respond. Then interview at DCG. Then it was Florida. Oh, and then Tufts. That was the order. So that's the first part of your question. The second part of your question, what was the interview day like at each school or the interview process? So I'll start with Arizona. So with Arizona, they had us do a Kira assessment in which you were asked certain questions and you didn't know what they were going to ask you. It can be any and everything under the sun. You did not know what the question was going to be, and it was timed, and you only had one chance to answer your question, or else you would get cut off, and that answer had to be submitted. And my background, when I was a teenager in high school, I did Toastmasters, and I'm a very strong orator. And it was 3 women and 2 men that worked with me for as being a public speaking coach. They taught us how to do table topics. They would throw any question at us. And I'll never forget, they said, Mr. Clarke, how do you feel about what happened in Louisiana? Do you feel as though global warming exists? Yes or no? Go. And you got 30 seconds. They were tough. They was tough on me, but they said, this is how it's going to be down the line in the real world. So you got to know how to be able to communicate and think on your feet. Me personally, I didn't struggle with the Kira assessment. I liked the Kira assessment. It was fun because I had that background. But for someone who does not have that table topic background, they can really falter. And to a certain extent, that is considered in the admissions process, the Kira assessment. On the actual day of the interview for Arizona, it was nice. They were very cordial. They were very professional. The admissions committee or staff, they split us up into 4 different groups. I was in group D. And so each group did something different while the other one was doing something else. Like one group was actually doing the interview. Another group watched like an educational video. Another group, we got to try on the white coats. I guess they ordered some sample white coats and they was like, we want you to envision yourself of what it's like putting on a white coat. I thought that was unique. And there was, it was MMIs, multiple interviews. That I was like, okay, woo, I'm really having to think through that. So that was somewhat difficult.
And that's at AT still?
Right. That's at AT still. DCG, it was over 2 days. What I liked with them was the first day, it was the student interview. It was nice, calm, very chill. And it was kind of like the icebreaker interview, which they just wanted to get to know us. We got a tour of the school. We wanted to see what was student life like. It was really nice. Tufts. Hold on, wait. Oh, Florida. Okay, I will admit, going into Florida, I was nervous because ironically, when I had my interview at Arizona, at first, a lot of kids was just like, yeah, Florida, it's hard, it's tough. And I'm like, oh, they over there gossiping. But when I started listening, they said, no, you have to be on your P's and Q's. They want to know why you want to apply to Florida. What is it about our school? And I'm like, oh, this is some valuable information because I have an interview coming up. So another thing that I did, Dr. Darwin, since you said be resourceful, I hopped on Google. Google is my friend. And then it filtered me to YouTube. And the dean of University of Florida Dental School, she did a podcast. And she pretty much addressed every common applicant's questions and concerns about University of Florida. It was like a playbook for how to excel in the interview. And I was constantly listening to that leading up to my interview at Florida. So with Florida, I will admit I was nervous. I was like Rocky. I was wary of everything, but they were really nice. They took our pictures. We did like a family feud of questions based on presentations we had throughout the day. We had a tour of the school, which was nice. And then we had interviews. Yeah, it was interviews. And last but not least, with Tufts, it was 2 parts. It was a presentation day in which you had to sit and listen to why you should come to Tufts, the pros of coming to Tufts, the education, the expenses, all of that. And then it was my actual interview. And it was one-on-one with a faculty member. And very quickly, because this is important, Arizona, it was 2v1. It was 2 of them to 1 of me. DCG, it was 2 separate interviews for 30 minutes. Then for Florida, it was 3v1. It was three of them and one of me. And then for Tufts, it was 1v1. Now, for its questions that they asked me, one question they asked right off the bat, and I wasn't going to hide anything. I'm like, I got some integrity about myself. Mr. Clarke, you said you want to apply to dental school and get accepted into our program. Why should we accept you when your grades were the way they were in undergrad? I said, okay. I was financially insecure. I was food insecure. I was dealing with microaggressions, depression. I had to work, and I was taking care of two family members who were sick. That's why my grades were the way they were.
Life be lifing,
Right.
whether you like it or not.
I was like,
Why you
hey,
learning? Life be lifing when you learning.
exactly. I said, life just dealt me a bad hand, and I did the best that I could with trying to handle not only the sciences, but journalism classes. And unfortunately, it just reflected in my grades. And they said, wow, thank you for sharing with that. And on all four schools, after when it was said and done, they did like how I had a sense of integrity about myself. Another question that I was asked was, oh, I can't name the school. They asked me, well, Mr. Clarke, you said you worked at Chick-fil-A. What was that like working at Chick-fil-A? I was like, yeah, I remember that. In spring of 2014, I did the 5 a.m. shift to 3 p.m. And yes, when it was 8 of us who literally clocked in at 5 a.m., there's already cars in the drive-through, and night shift didn't stop. And we're trying to utilize that hour to get everything together. And when you got 20 cars in the drive-through and 40 people waiting outside the establishment and we understaffed, oh yeah, I had to learn how to think critically on my feet. I had to start remembering what guests were wanting. I was dealing with a lot of personalities. There were some people on the day shift who wanted to be left alone. There were other people who didn't want to be bothered with until they had their coffee. So I learned a lot at Chick-fil-A. Another question that I did like, it was in regards to they were just candid. They just said, okay, Mr. Clarke, we get thousands of applications coming across our desk. Why should we accept you? What makes you unique? What makes you special? I said, okay. I said, I'm about to throw a lot of buzzwords at, in my mind, I said, I'm about to throw a lot of buzzwords at these people. The one thing I said is, I understand you all receive a lot of individuals applying to your school, but what makes me unique, I'm kind of like Mulan from Disney. Why? Because do you not remember the scene where, yes, she impersonated a male soldier, but she had to get to the arrow and she had two things that was weighing her down. It was those weights, and she had to get to the arrow. So for me, you all are dental school. You all are the arrow. For me, what was weighing me down was a pandemic, mind you. Also, the political climate here in America, that started to wane on me. Plus, I'm juggling multiple jobs and I'm in a master's program. But even with that weight weighing down on me, I was still able to get to the arrow, which is you all today, which shows I'm focused, I'm disciplined, I'm tenacious, I have grit, and I'm not going to let anything stand in my way until I get accepted into dental school. And more importantly, it shows I am coachable and can listen, because I was also informed that there was parts of my area, there was areas of my application I needed to improve in. I listened, executed, and grew stronger, in which these are some skills that your students need to exhibit in your school. Now, I could list a couple more questions, but for the sake of time, I'm gonna leave it at those three.
Wow. And your answers are what is are the things that stand out, right? Not knowing what they're going to answer, I mean, ask you, and you being able to come up with your answers. Again, you've been doing this for a while as far as your past experiences and training with Toastmasters and table topics and coming up with answers and communicating, right? But the fact that you gave a story or you related your answer with a story just again echoes the importance and the power of storytelling
Yeah.
and how it relates and how it allows people to lean in and want to listen and hear or even ask you more questions. But then, as part of your story, you go back to the things as to why you. And those of you who are listening, watching, you've got to tell them why you. Because if you don't do it, guess what? 200 other people are doing it in the interview. They're doing it in their interviews, and they are advocating for themselves. So you have to do it. You have to advocate for yourself, especially when you're at the interview. That is the last time you will have the opportunity to advocate for yourself based on your application. They already like you. They're already interested in you on paper. Now we're in person, and you've got to advocate for yourself. Demonstrate, tell a story that demonstrates that you're disciplined, that you're focused, right? That you have persevered and you have grit, and that you also are coachable. All of those four things and a whole bunch of other characteristics or things that you must be able to display actively for 4 years as a dental student. So, that question about, why you, what makes you unique, and why you're special. And for those of you that are struggling with thinking about or answering that question, spend your time now focused on pulling out those pieces. You have to do a self assessment, right? You have to do the self assessment because the interview selection committee, admissions committee, we don't know you. We don't know your experiences. We don't know the stories. We know you on paper, but it's your job in person to share that and more as to why you, right? There's always going to be someone that has a better GPA, right? So always going to be someone that's got a 28 or a 30 on one of the uh, sections of the DAT. It's always going to be someone that's going to have a higher score or a higher grade. But there's not going to be someone that is you. Only you are you. So you need to tell us that as to why you're special, why you are unique, and why we should pick you. Any other questions that were similar amongst those four schools?
I'm not going to say similar, but if I had to think of another question. Oh, okay. This one caught me off guard to the point I thought the man was joking, but I had to catch myself and say, oh, no, he's legit. So, again, I can't name the school, but one of the schools I interviewed at, um, he did ask me, Mr. Clarke, what kept you going? And I explained. And then he said, okay, I could tell just to your point. He was like, I done read your application. You done went to school, masters. What does Wesley Clarke like to do in his spare time? And I was like, okay, well, and I was trying to be, I don't want to say vague, but I was like, well, I really like spending time with my family and friends. And he said, no, what do you like doing? And I said, oh, okay. Well, I like playing kickball. I like playing dodgeball because I feel like I'm an Avenger. He said, oh, superheroes. So who's your favorite superhero? And literally I went, say what? And he's like, no, who is your favorite superhero?
Right,
And
right.
I'm like, oh, he's not playing. He's legit serious. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I like Spider-Man because I have his build. He's in the sciences. He wear glasses. I wear glasses. And then also I like Iceman from the X-Men because he likes it cold. I like the cold weather. So I thought that was a unique question that caught me off guard. So again, these people can ask you any off the wall question.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's most of them are not trick questions. They are questions to get to know you more as an individual, right? Because again, you have to be at the school, but they have to be with you and are responsible for you all through matriculation to graduation, all 4 years. So they want to get to know you, right? So be prepared to be playful and show other parts of your personality or who you are outside of a focused, determined academic leader and leader of organizations and all of those things. Who are you as a person, which is key, which is key. So 4 interviews, Florida, Boston, where's I forgot DGA, Augusta, and Arizona. So you did some traveling too, in those interviews. So once you get the interviews, then you have to kind of like do an assessment. But while you're assessing how those interview days went and the people that you met and how you felt, then you have to continue to what? Wait. You got to wait until the next most important notification, which is acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about um, acceptances and what were some things before you reveal to us what school you're going to be going to, how you decided on the programs that you received acceptances from, because there are many that may get multiple acceptances and they're still not satisfied, meaning they may have gotten accepted to their number 3 or number 4 or number 5 choice, and they're still waiting on number 1. And we'll do some things like place a deposit, waiting to see if their number 1, 2, or 3 uh, contacts them. But it's also based off of the fact that there are some specific decisions about these 4 programs or those programs that accept you that you're going to have to make, right? Because you
Mm-hmm.
can't go to both. You can't combine one of, the things that you like in school A with school B. You got to pick one or the other. So let's dive into that related to your acceptances and what were the things that helped you decide school A versus school B versus school C versus school D at that point?
Okay. So out of those 4 schools, I got waitlisted at 2 of the 4. I got waitlisted at Arizona. I got waitlisted at the University of Florida, and I did get accepted into Tufts and DCG. So when I found out I got accepted into those 2 schools, in which, by the way, I want to add the humanly aspect to this because sometimes it gets overlooked because at the end of the day, we're human beings. I'll never forget. I was at the job training this girl how to do my job because she had started, and my phone rang, and I ran outside because it said Federal State Government of Georgia. I'm like, okay, I think it's DCG, and I picked up. I said, hello. And so it was the admissions rep. And then with Tufts, they reached out to me via email. So I just want to throw that in there. Now, when I had to compare both schools, I honestly felt like I don't know, Tyra Banks on America's Next Top Model. When it comes down to the last 2 contestants, okay, both schools are great. And honestly, Dr. Darwin, I really had to have some serious questions. Okay, what is the education like? Oh, okay, they're neck and neck. Okay, but now I'm looking at the cost. Okay, but then what is that weather like? Okay, one is hot, one is cold, but okay, I'm really I'm it's a fact. I'm like, okay, so that
And
kind of
and you
doesn't
and
help.
you like cold weather, I heard. You like cold
Right.
weather.
I'm like, okay. But then another thing that I really do take pride in is diversity. I was raised in an environment where my mother put my sister and I in diverse schools. And the school that I attended, high school I attended, was Druid Hills High School. At the time, it was ranked in the top 5 schools in Atlanta for most diverse. Now, mind y'all, this is back in the day. Please don't come for me. This is 08, 09. And one man, the geography teacher, he painted the entire globe or countries in the world. And so every time he had a first generation student come in his class or through his class, he would paint that country. So
Mm.
first generation Italian, he would paint it. First generation Australian, paint it. And to this day, I don't know if every country in that room is full. Mr. Trey Palmer at Druid Hills High School, I hope it gets filled one day. He's no longer there. But I say that to say because diversity is important to me. It's different individuals valuing each other, regardless of skills, intelligence, talents, and years. So I saw Tufts, and literally on presentation day, when it was all of us in the Zoom link, I literally clicked and saw all of my potential cohort classmates, and every shade of humanity was represented. When people were saying, my name is so and so, My grandfather came through Ellis Island from Poland, Ireland,
Mm.
Italy. We make our native dishes every year. I've been doing it since the age of 5. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Or this one girl's like, I'm from Kingston, Jamaica. I'm like, what? Another girl was saying, I'm from Nigeria. I really liked that. I was like, oh my gosh, y'all got a lot of brownie points with me. So I had to take diversity into account. Then I had to take location. How far can I be from my family? I come from humble means, and we didn't have much growing up, but it is nice to be near family. So I had to take all that into account, Doc. I did.
So whether diversity, closeness, or lack thereof, an ability to get back to family, connect with family during the period of time, those were three big decision items for you. Anything else, or were those the main three?
And then the only other one was my predecessors who attended what school and what, them being on the other side as a practicing licensed dentist. I saw what the school has done for them. So I also had to take that into account.
Gotcha. Well, you got me excited now. Well, not only because you're going to be a dentist and you've persevered through this journey, and I'm excited for you to be able to dive in and do your thing, but also I'm excited to try to figure out where you're going to be going to dental school, primarily because I've heard some clues and I know some people that are at both of those programs, Tufts and Dental College of Georgia. Oh well, I don't know. It's a story. Well, Dental College of Georgia, Augusta University, yada yada. I know. Miss Dad, I can't think of her name now. I can't think of her last name. Stephanie. Um, um, I'll figure it out. I know her, and also know um Dr. Holloway as well, and all the students over the years, right when Tufts was ramping up those numbers from 10 to 15 to 20 to 30 to 40 to close to 50 students that look like you or from similar type of backgrounds to where they are now as the second largest dental school behind NYU, and all the growth in many areas, but also in the access to matriculation at schools like a Tufts, right? And similar with Dental College of Georgia as well, the numbers that have increased over the last 20 and 30 years. So I'm excited to hear where you're going to be taking your talents to. So
Okay.
where are you going to dental school?
I will be attending dental school, heading down I-20 East to DCG.
DCG. Congratulations. All right. I
And
love it.
there's but there's a story I want to share very quickly. And this is why I was dropping nuggets throughout my time speaking to you so that I can bring it all together. So, again, if we're going back on the timeline, 2012 was the very first time I crossed paths with your colleague, which was Miss Perry.
That's right.
And I remember my very first conversation I had with her. I was like, "Hi, my name is Wesley Clarke. I'm interested in dentistry." And she was like, "Oh, okay, young man." I will never forget. She was just like, "You got to tell me what makes you unique. What makes you think we should give you a ticket into our school, young man?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." I was kind of, I don't know. I was like, I just kind of felt intimidated.
Right,
And
right.
so throughout the years, in 2012, I went to the Impressions Day.
Hmm.
And I didn't know what I was looking for. I was just going through the motions of the oceans. Okay. Then fast forward to 2017, I set up a day and time to speak with one of the admissions representatives. And then it was Miss Perry. And she said, "Whoa, Mr. Clarke, you know, your DAT scores and your GPA." And as I mentioned earlier, she said, Mr. Clarke, yo, we saw that 12 with Jen Kim, sir. We said, oh, absolutely not. But she gave me some tough love and said, Mr. Clarke, we could honestly tell you went through a lot in undergrad. So this is what you need to do. You need to get a master's. You need to take that DAT again so that you can steadily build a stronger and stronger case. So whenever that time comes, when you get accepted in DCG, you will have a strong argument as to why we should accept you. So then
Mm.
between 2017 and 2022, if we're still building and fostering that relationship, I was sent a little email one day. Hey, Miss Perry, I'm good. I'm working here at this lab. Oh, okay. Hey, Miss Perry, it's 2020. Man, I'm taking parasitology. I'm working in this lab and COVID is going on. Hey, Miss Perry, it's 2021. Oh my God, I'm taking biochem, but I'm still doing good at Georgia State. Hey, Miss Perry, it's 2023. I'm planning to apply next year. So your name will come across, my name will come across your desk again for another time. And so now going into 2024, when I got the interview to DCG, both individuals who interviewed me, you know how when you start an interview with someone and you got to get your bearings together and you're like, oh, okay, I'll be right with you. And then you start the interview. Both individuals who interviewed me for a solid minute and a half, they were like, awkward silence. And it's a scene in the movie Colombiana with Zoe Saldana. It's where one of the men are trying to shoot her and his gun is empty and she gives a smirk. I can't do it like her, but she was like,
Right.
because my profile was so dense. They were like, where do we begin? So
Yeah.
that's why every time I sent an email, I went to an impressions day, I was following up. All that culminated together. So when I walked in that interview room, it was like, okay, let's begin.
Yeah. Let's begin. And who is this person? Oh my God. Who is this person? Who is this? Oh, we got to meet him in person based on all of this that has transpired over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Who is this person? We've got to meet this person. And and shout out to Miss Perry, Stephanie Perry, great advocate for all students. She loves what she does, and she loves helping people, getting on them on the straight and narrow. You might have probably you may have met. Did you meet her at the Hinman as well? Because she used to go to the Hinman. I know a lot of some of the admissions folks go to different meetings, and I know that's a popular one. But I just can't remember. I know she used to go pretty often. But my point is DCG and the importance. Here's an example of the importance of making sure you're building relationships and maintaining, sustaining those relationships through your communication. Can't stress the importance of that during this process. All right. Not only for dental school, but also for life as well. Right. Because
But
dental school and being a dentist is a small segment of life for you as well.
but also I will also add the additional caveat to that is be transparent. I was being honest. I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, Miss Perry, here I am. I literally started my master's program. Here's a pandemic, but I'm also juggling 2 jobs. Or
Yep.
hey, Miss Perry, I did okay in biochem. I got a B minus. I was close to a C, but I'm good. Being transparent, because one thing that she did tell me was, Mr. Clarke, we document every time a student sets up a day and time and calls us, and
Mm.
we document that. Every time we have a phone call with you all, we document, because then she was saying that when it comes down to the table and we're like, who do we accept? Who do we not accept? Okay, Ricky Late, she was cool. Okay, Maury Povich was nice. Wesley Clarke, let me tell you about Wesley Clarke. Okay, he spoke to me in 2017. I told him to do X, Y, and Z. Here it is, 2024. He listened to me. So I know he's gonna be listening to any and everybody who's coaching him in dental school or teaching him, excuse me.
There you go. So DCG, you're going to DCG. Congratulations. I-20, here we come. Here we come. Augusta, here we come. What are 3 things about the school that you really like and that you're excited about being a part of that school community? What are 3 things that you really like that we can share, that you can share with those that may have DCG on their list, or maybe they need to explore a school like DCG?
Okay, so right out the bat, um, I'm not ashamed to say it. I do like school. I may not be the brightest crayon in the Crayola box, but every color shined in its own way. I mean, heck, there are times you got to use gray. Gray has to shine. You can't use red for everything. So, so the education is what I really liked. And so, since a number of my friends, which by the way, relationships, I had a friend graduate 2017, 2020, 2022, 2025, and 2027. And I met them either at Chick-fil-A, we went to school together, or we worked at another job in corporate America together. So when I saw them go in through it now to DCG and where they're at in life, I'm like, oh, okay. They learned. They the alumni network is great. Not to say the other schools they aren't good. I'm not saying that, but for what I'm seeing with DCG, I'm like, okay, I can see where this school helped my friends out, and I want them to help me get to where I'm going. So that's number one. Number two, I have to be honest. The cost. It's a good school, so it's shooting two birds with one stone. I'm getting educated at an affordable cost to the point when I attended Impressions Day in 2023, again, after doing it the first time in 2012, Dr. Messer, she was saying that, which by the way, this is a good heads up. So there was one girl in Impressions Day. I don't know where that girl is in life. I wish her all the best. I knew what she meant, but it came out just horrible. Her question was, this is to the student panel. I mean, does it really matter where you go? Because I mean, at the end of the day, you're just going to be a doctor. So what makes you all different from another school? I get what she was trying to say, but how it came out, it came off just very distasteful. And it was said in a way where, okay, I can go to another school. I don't need y'all. Like, what makes you unique? And I will never forget, as Dr. Messer is very professional, and her response was, hey, we are an affordable school. When you come out with debt, it's not going to be much as the national average. In fact, it's half of the national student average of dental school debt. And I, of course, Google been my friend since '08. So when I Googled it, DCG was in the top 10 schools that is affordable and you're still getting a good education. And when I spoke to all of my friends who are alumni now, even one of my mentors who graduated back in the 70s, he said, yep, that the affordability. So that affordability was a second. And then third, the location. I'm still in the South, close to family, close to friends, not far from Atlanta. It's a 2-hour drive. If I want to go to South Carolina, I can. I just got to drive over the bridge. And then plus, given where I'm at in life, I have to pack up my stuff and move. So I don't have far to go, and I don't have to come out of pocket as much to pay people to help me move my stuff. So education, location, and the cost.
Your cost. Now, real quick, cost for people who are need to add this to their spreadsheet. What's the cost of DCG per year?
Per year, I did the math, 37,500, or it could be a little bit higher because in one of the brochures, well, for in-state, let me not speak for in and out of state. I'm in state. It was saying that on average, someone comes out of dental school debt by 150,000. So I just took that number and divided it by 4. So it could be a little higher, but either way, it's still very reasonable.
Yeah, and reasonable, especially in comparison to the other acceptance location where you got accepted at Tufts, because that 40K is probably like for one semester. So big difference. So congratulations again, and those are definitely things to be excited about as you getting ready to join the community. So now listen, the community wants to hear more from you about tips and advice, knowing what you know now and what you've done and how you have taken on this journey and this process over these last 3 cycles, but also much longer as far as years over these 3 cycles of applying to dental school. What are 3, 4, 5 tips for pre-dental students that you want to give and share with them that they must do? They must do now. They got to do it right now.
So I came up with 7, and I'll respect you with 5 because you asked for 5.
7 is fine. Hey, it is what it is.
Okay.
It's been
First,
7 years. It's been 7 years for you going through this process. Hey, I can. I'm not a mathematician, but I can add. It's been a long. It's been 7 years, right?
yeah. So okay. So first
Seven
and
is fine. Yeah, 7 is fine. Let's hear those.
okay. So first and foremost, please don't underestimate. Um. Oh gosh, this honestly could be 2 bullet points. No, maintain and foster relationships. You never know who you will need help with in life. Earlier in this conversation, when I mentioned my evolutionary biology professor wrote me the letter recommendation, that was back in 2017. The first time I applied, it was so funny because Miss Perry was like, "Is this lady a friend or a professor?" I'm like, "No, she's a professor." She said it was a good LOR, but she wrote it like a friend. And I'm like, "No, Miss Perry, you can Google her. I promise you, she's a professor." She Googled the lady and she said, "Oh, UGA, evolutionary biology. Oh, okay." But the point of me saying that is the lady knew me so well, like the back of my hand, because I continue to maintain that relationship with her. Um, Before, during, and even after her class. So you got to maintain those relationships. Your peers, if your peers get accepted into whatever dental school your heart may desire, and it's that school you want to go to, email them, text them. When you're taking a 5-minute study break from OChem, physics, physiology, hey, hey, John Doe, how's life as a D1? Oh man, it's hard. Oh my gosh, but I take it one day at a time. Okay, another couple of months go by. Now they're D2. Just continue to foster that relationship. Number 2, here's a big one that I see it all the time in the DAT Facebook group. People are scared to take gap years. Between 2017 and now 2025, that's right around 8.5 gap years. And I'm going off to dental school. Don't be afraid of gap years. It's You got to be careful though, because for me, I knew I needed to continue to build a case of why I should get into dental school. So I knew I need to do a master's. But at the same time, I'm not going to be 28 forever. You only turn a certain number one time in your life. You get older. So for me, yes, I was working 2 jobs. It was a full-time job, a part-time job. There was one time I was working 4 jobs, but at the same time, I was still living life. I played dodgeball. I played kickball. I was a hair model. I did 2 bodybuilding shows. I became an art model. I was still living my best life. I paid $20,000 of debt off of a $15 an hour salary. I was still living my best life. So if you're afraid of gap years, don't be afraid. But you got to have a strategy though. Everybody is different. So you're taking 2 gap years. And if you are, let's just say, a Wonder Woman and a Superman with a 3.8 GPA, a 30 DAT score, you still need to remain abreast as to what's going on in dentistry. You need to shadow, volunteer, attend the Hinman dental meeting in your region of America so that you can present to the admissions committee that you is still abreast as within the field of dentistry. Secondly, this is to my
So I just want to say gap year. For those that may not know or have heard of it, it's a year or time spent immediately between the time that you finish undergrad and then enroll into dental school, right? Especially if you don't get into dental school immediately after your undergrad year and you're matriculating, say you graduate in the spring of, May of the year, and then you're going to be matriculating into dental school in the late summer, early fall, August, September. If you don't do that, then that time in between, or when you do eventually get into dental school, that's considered a gap year or time spent. Now, like you said, you're going to be filling in the gap and doing things that you need to do to get into dental school. GAP, as an acronym, is great at preparation. Yes, you're going to be preparing, using that time to prepare your candidacy and your application so that it's the strongest it can be. And you may need more time after graduating undergrad to develop it. Nothing wrong with that, because you definitely don't want to submit an application that's not strong or incomplete because you're rushing and you don't want to take the time to do it. The gap year allows you that opportunity. So I just wanted to clarify, but also give some more context to that gap year and why that is important in this process. So your third tip.
Yes, this is to my, well, I was about to say non-traditional students, but this is for anybody. For those of you who are like, oh my gosh, because I see it a lot in the DAT Facebook group. Oh my gosh, I'm having to work. I have exams, but I'm trying to shadow. I need to attend this dental meeting. I don't know what to do. So after I took the DAT in summer of 2023, I knew I needed a job and I got hired full time in a pathology lab. And between August and December, I came in with a strategy. I said, I'm not calling out of work. I'm hoarding all of my PTO hours. Now, I had to read the rules. I'm like, do my hours get to carry over into next year or do they fall off? So luckily for me, my job, it carries over. But if you carry over a certain number of hours, I think the cutoff was like 200. So if I was at 210, those 10 hours would fall off. So for me, since I just got hired in August of 2023, by the time January hit, I had like maybe, I think 30 something hours. But I say that to say, when I had to do a master's certificate at the University of Florida, I forgot to mention that earlier, when the professor said, hey, y'all, this is human anatomy. These are your exams in February, March, April, and May. I scheduled my PTO around those exam days. Or if I had some type of dental event coming up where either one, I was trying to establish a new relationship and or two, maintain a relationship, I could go to that convention. Or more importantly, I used that during my interviews for dental school, PTO. And no, you don't have to tell these jobs where you're going. You can simply say, oh, I'm out. I'm going to be gone. You're not obligated to tell these companies where exactly you're going. Just know, just you earned them hours and submit them. Point number 4, it was one question you asked, and I really wish I could have did it in high school. I can't cry over spilled milk. Things were different back in spring of 09. So technically in fall of 2008, I met all my credits at Druid Hills. I honestly could have graduated early. And my goal was in spring of 09, it was to go to a school here in Atlanta, like a tech school where students can earn credits to where they can take classes at a tech school to where it feeds back into high school while still becoming a licensed hair beautician, a barber, mechanic, and they had a licensed dental assistant program. I really wanted to do that in high school, but the transit here at times is not reliable. Lyft or Uber did not exist. Taxi drivers, that's how they make their money. And some of them, not all, are very slow drivers. And trying to commute from one part of Atlanta to another, I missed out on that opportunity because I had no one to take me there. However, if you are a high school student now, ask your high school counselor. It may not be well advertised because it wasn't advertised at my high school, but my counselor did know of the program I was referring to, and she was all for it. She was willing to support me. But again, I didn't have transportation. So that's one thing I would say to individuals who are a little bit younger who might be watching this video.
So you're saying for that particular tip to explore opportunities where you may be able to be exposed to the dental field earlier in high school if there's such opportunities.
Right. So that when you go off to college, you're a licensed dental assistant And instead of you shadowing, well, let me not say shadowing, but instead of you shadowing and being like a fly on the wall, now you can work chair side with the doctor. And when the doctor is like, hey, can you hand me this particular instrument, or can you hand me this numbing agent? You're not like, what, huh, who? You know what the professor, you know what the doctor is wanting, you know the procedure, you know what tooth is being worked on. So it's a lot that you can get a jump start on. You're
Okay,
more
gotcha.
immersed in the field of dentistry instead of just observing.
Gotcha. Okay.
The next point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next point, again, I said it before, I say it again. I can't stress this enough. I don't care on the scale of, let's just be candid, A to a F, F to a A. Please go to office hours. I was told loose lips sink ships. And sometimes in office hours, these professors will tell you some things that they don't tell the general masses. They're back to my OChem professor that I had at UGA. He had office hours Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I would go almost every Friday. And he said, you know what, Mr. Clarke, I rarely have students come on Fridays, but I purposely put them on Fridays. And I'm like, why did you put them on Fridays? And he said, because what average college student wants to be learning chemistry between 1 and 3 p.m. on a Friday afternoon when it's sunny outside? And I got
Not
quiet.
me.
I was like, oh, that's facts. He said, yeah, but for those that do come, there are a few students that come on Fridays. They quote unquote earn brownie points with me. He said, I'm gonna just be candid. They do. I don't tell them that, but because you've been coming to my office hours enough, I'm gonna just be honest with you. I'm like, yeah, you low-key earning brownie points with me. So it planted the seed in my mind, like, oh my gosh, these professors, they're strategizing when, not every professor now, but these professors are strategizing when they have their office hours. But during that time when it's you and the professor by yourself, take advantage of that time because it's you and the professor, because that's what helped me stand out in the process back in 2017 and 2022. My professors was when the admissions committee was like, dang, Wes got a C in this class or he got a B in this class. What happened? Oh, the professor said, yes, he struggled, or he or she said they struggled in my class, but here's why. He was working multiple jobs. He was trying to volunteer. He was trying to be a well-rounded student. He was taking care of his relatives back at home. Wes was dealt a bad hand, but he tried to make the most of it. Now the admissions committee will ask themselves, wow, could I have gotten a C in genetics while taking physiology and OChem, working a job, trying to support my family back at home and support myself? We might give him or her some grace in that area. So please go to office hours. Also, finances comes up a lot. So for me, by working in corporate America all these years, I'm a member with Enterprise and Holiday Inn. And now everybody got an app and you accumulate points. So when I had to travel all over America, to your point, I was using my points that I had spent throughout the year of 2024 so that now I could spend those points that I accumulated, and I saved money. When I was at Florida, which by the way, another nugget, please Google the nearest hotel. I'm a big hotel guy, not Airbnb. I'm a big hotel guy. So for me, I Googled the closest Holiday Inn to each and every school, and it was always 5 or 10 minutes away. So for Arizona, the nearest Holiday Inn was 2 minutes away. For Florida, it was literally 2 minutes away down the street as well. DCG was like a solid 15-minute drive, and then TUS was virtual. But please maybe use your parents' points or a colleague or somebody in which you're comfortable with, and they do business with whatever car rental services or airline to where you accumulate points. Maybe they can put that in your name so that y'all don't have to come out of pocket for anything. And last but certainly not least, yes, this has been a journey for me. Yes, there was times where I wanted to quit. There was times on this job where there were some custodians who was locking doors so I couldn't study for the DAT. Or on one of my jobs, because certain individuals was threatened by my caliber of work, I had to go to HR on them because one of them got mad at me one day and said, yeah, we're plotting to get you fired. It's 5 of us. I dealt with so much and it was hard. But I say all of this to say that you've got to take each day one day at a time. It's not over until, hey, now if the dean, whoever you speak with at these schools, and if they tell you this is your laundry list and everybody's laundry list of what to do to get inside dental school, it's going to be different than the person you look to your left and to your right. But if you do everything on that laundry list, you will more than likely get in. But please have faith. Please take each day one day at a time and know that when it's for you, it is for you. For me, I was reading Isaiah 60:22. When the time is right, I will make it happen. And I read Joshua 1:9, Isaiah 41:10. I was reading all these quotes to keep me mentally grounded, sound body, mind, and spirit. And here I am today. I'm not ashamed to say that I got accepted into dental school now in 2025 because a lot of people apply to dental school, but not everybody get in.
And they won't get in all at the same time.
Right.
Right. and but everyone can get in. There's a spot for everyone.
True.
But you only get accepted if you continue.
Right.
You only get accepted if you continue to apply and go through the process. Because when you quit, that's it. There's no acceptance if you quit. There's no interview if you quit. Meaning you stop the process because you just can't deal with not being accepted or being accepted into dental school, because your timetable is not the timetable of the schools or vice versa, right? So some great tips, man. Just a recap of those. Maintain and foster those relationships with faculty members, your peers, staying in communication with people. Second, a gap year. Again, gap stands for great at preparation. Use that year, use that time to prepare a strong candidate application that highlights why you. Very important. 3, schedule time to attend meetings and conferences and events, right? Whether they're school related at potential dental schools or by organizations at dental schools that have events that you want to participate in so that you can network and meet some of the current dental students, or if it means going to a meeting, right? The Hinman meeting in Atlanta every year, the NDA meeting, which is different locations, National Dental Association, along with the ADA, American Dental Association as well. Go to those meetings, go to those national and those regional meetings so that you can meet and connect with, network with your future colleagues, right? Very important. 4, explore opportunities where you can learn about dentistry as a career and as a profession. This is more for those individuals who are in high school or even in college who are thinking about dentistry. Maybe explore the career from the lens of the auxiliary, a dental assistant, right? Or a tech, a dental tech, or something similar to that, so that you're already in that environment as you are preparing and building your application for dental school, right? 5, which we talked about at the beginning, which was go to your office hours, go to your college professor's office hours, even in high school, too. Tell my son same thing, not just for a test, but just to go ask that professor, that teacher, a quick question about a topic that maybe you're not fully understanding of. Uh, and you shouldn't have to go to the professor when you're in trouble.
Right.
You go to the professor so that you don't get in trouble, right? So going to those office hours and the importance of the fact that you give others the opportunity to open up and talk about and give more context as to who you are as a candidate and as an individual, which will be reflected where? and there's letters of recommendations, because you do have some admissions committee members that will call on the telephone or send an email to those individuals you have indicated have written letters of recommendation for you. Yes, we call. Some programs, some schools call, right? In addition to receiving that letter. So that's important. As it relates to travel, number 6, if you have credit card points, loyalty points, part of programs, as part of this process, you're going to have to travel. Not all programs and interviews will be virtual. There will be some that you will have to go to in person, which costs not only time but money, right? So tap into loyalty points, or individuals that can maybe help you travel by using their points for you, so that you can travel and staying close to places where it's not an inconvenience on interview day, right? And then 7, which was continue. You must move forward. Yes, life is hard. This process is hard, but every day you should be moving forward. You should be thinking and have the mindset of, what can I do today? Better yet, what will I do today to keep moving forward in this process, to get closer to my goal, right? As it relates to dental school, or even as a dental student. And you'll see this very soon, Dr. West. You'll see it. That first first semester of dental school, you're going to be bombarded with so much information, like you said, like drinking water from a fire hydrant. So much stuff, but nonetheless, you're still going to be expected to be able to do X, Y, and Z. So, what can I do today to manage my time, the information, and the sleep deprivation that I'm experiencing? Because I got to keep moving forward to get better today, to get better at prepping these crowns, to get better at understanding the Krebs cycle, which I thought I understood last year, but now it's something else. Blah, blah, blah. What can I do to get better? Move forward, and having faith that, yes, it is a process and you're a person within the process, but it's the process that produces the result. And the result will be to get into dental school and becoming a dentist. So this has been very helpful. Wes, what's the best way for people to contact you if they want to talk more or have some more questions for you?
Yeah, so I can be reached via email, WESCLARK, the number 9, the number 1 at gmail.com. So westclark91 at gmail.com. And or Instagram, my IG handle is WC_FIT, the letter N, educated. So WC_fit in educated.
Well, we've been educated today with your journey and your process of getting accepted into dental school and becoming a dentist. So now we want you to become more informed about these processes and more by going to the next episode. Go to the next episode right now. Go, go, go.